Hey, greetings! Welcome back to Sean's Irish Whiskey Shelf, coming at you from the heart of the United States out here in the Midwest. And before we get started, always have a little bit of housekeeping to do. First of all, if you like my videos as much as I like putting them together, hey, take a second, go down there in the corner, click on the like button. Sure would mean an awful lot to me, and it'll keep the YouTube algorithms happy also. And if you want to know when I come out with new videos, you go down there in the other corner and click on the little bell, or subscribe. I think first it's subscribe, and then you can click on the bell, and you'll be notified when I do new videos. Come out about once a week. Also, don't forget about my favorite online vendors down there, htfw.com. That is hard to find whiskey. And if you're looking for something and you can't find it in your local store, check out Hard to Find Whiskey. Chances are they probably have it. They do have Middleton Very Rare 2024. That's going to be on the shelf here pretty soon, probably in a couple of weeks, courtesy of Hard to Find Whiskey. So, telling you folks, they're great people to deal with. So, let's talk about what we're doing this evening. So, as my longtime viewers know, anyway, I enjoy having a cigar and whiskey in the evenings, and I was getting really close to finishing up a bottle of Slane that I had over here on the shelf. So I picked up another bottle, and I thought, well, let me just go ahead and finish up this bottle that's almost empty. And I realized that Slane is a pretty good Irish whiskey. I ended up getting 2 glasses out of it, and I really enjoyed it. I had forgotten how much I enjoyed it. We looked at Slane way back in, I think, episode 35, somewhere back around there. So it's been a little while since we had Slane, and I hadn't really had that much of it since. I liked how it had a very nice flavor, and looking at what makes up Slane, it's single grain, single malt, and it's finished in 3 different casks. So they list it right on the label here, triple casked. So you're going to get some virgin oak, you're going to get some seasoned oak, and then you're going to get Oloroso sherry. 3 different casks, 80 proof, just a wonderful whiskey. So I got to thinking, well, seem to recall that there's another whiskey out there that's single grain, single malt, finished in Oloroso sherry casks, and by golly, it is Black Bush. A subscriber, I think he's a subscriber, he's at least someone who watched a video. Anyway, he mentioned that Bushmills Black is one of his favorites, and heck, I like Bushmills Black too. As I mentioned on an earlier episode, I used to drink this with my dad, passed away yesterday, 4 years ago. So why not? If this is a single grain, single malt whiskey that's finished in bourbon, so a seasoned oak cask and Oloroso sherry, and this is a single grain, single malt, which is finished in oak and Oloroso sherry, how would they stack up with each other? Because you're looking at 2 whiskeys that are very, very similar in their composition, pretty close in price. Bush Black, or Black Bush, Bushmills Black, whatever you want to call it, it's typically in the $40 range, 40, 41, somewhere in there. Slane, on the other hand, you should be able to find that in the low 30s. So they're pretty close. And certainly Slane being in the low 30s, man, that is right on spot to be an everyday drinker, or everyday sipper as I call it for me. So how do they stack up to each other? Are their tastes somewhat similar? Well, guess what? We're going to find out. So both of these are 80 proof, so they're exactly the same there. I do not know what the exact makeup is. How much is single malt? How much is single grain? It's not like our last video with the 2 stacks where you actually get that nice breakdown on the back label, because we don't get that here. We just know that both of these are a blend of single malt and single grain. So let's start off with the Black Bush, see how it tastes. I'm telling you folks, that is such a good whiskey. I see why it was my dad's favorite. It reminds me of why I liked drinking it with him. That's a fine drop of whiskey right there. And as much as single malt and single grain are not my favorites, I think the single malt definitely works in its favor to kind of knock back the single grain a little bit. So remember, single malt is going to bring a little bit of fruitiness. Single grain is going to bring a little bit of sweetness. The single grain isn't quite in your face like it is in some of the other whiskeys that we've tried, especially those that are single grain. So anyway, good drop of whiskey. Like it a lot. And I already know I like Slane. I've had it recently. Haven't had this recently, but I'm working on dropping it down, so I'm going to have to find another bottle, right? Slane. So let's see how Slane does. There is a difference. There is a difference. So right off the bat, I can tell you that this is not quite as sweet. The Slane lacks the sweetness of the Black Bush. And I don't know if it is the extra finishing in one more set of oak barrels that the Slane has to its name that the Black Bush doesn't. But this definitely does not have that sweetness component that I find in the Black Bush. Does that mean it's bad? Heck no. Not bad at all. It's still a great drop of whiskey. But I think it's going to come down to your palate. Are you looking for a whiskey that has a little bit more of that single grain sweetness to it than not? I guess that's the easiest way to put it. If you want the sweetness, you can't go wrong with the Black Bush. If you don't want that sweetness, maybe a little bit more of the single malt taste, I think. Maybe there's a little more single malt and a little less single grain in the Slane. If that is what you're after, then you're going to want the Slane. For my money, $40 for Black Bush, $30 for Slane, that's money well spent. Because I like them both. And I can't tell you which one is the better one because it's your palate that's going to make that determination. I'm going to let my palate try it one more time. I think I definitely get a little more of the single malt in that Slane. Strikes me as being a little more on the single malt side. Oh yeah, definitely get the sweetness of the Black Bush there over the Slane. So if I were to guess with my blue collar palate, I would say definitely this is stronger on the single grain. This is stronger on the single malt. That's my take on it. As always, your palate is going to vary from mine. Even if you track very close to me, you're still going to have a palate that's going to be slightly different than mine. But what I will tell you is if you see either of these on the shelf and you want to try something different, pick up a bottle, because this Black Bush is going to be an upgrade from your standard Bushmills. It's got, with that sweetness component in there, to me anyway, it just seems to have more flavor. Kind of has that pop, if you will, that flavor pop. I just think this is a better whiskey than the Bush White for $10 a bottle. And if you want to try something that is a little bit different in the same price range as a Tullamore, as a Bush White, but you want to change up the flavor a little bit, maybe not so harsh even, okay? Maybe you want to dial back on that spiciness of single pot still. Because remember, most of these blends, your Tullamore, your Bush White, things like that, Jameson, are going to be a blend of all three. Single pot still, single grain, single malt. This is just single grain, single malt, and I think the single malt is definitely taking the lead here. So it's going to give you a different feel, a different taste for the same price. And I really like this. I really like this. I like them both. It just depends on your taste buds. That's completely it. Oh, and your wallet. If you only have $30 in your wallet, you're only going to get this, right? You know, you got $40, well, you could spring for that. But all right, so I hope you found this informative. It was to me, because I saw two whiskeys that seemed very similar on the outside. On the inside, though, they definitely have a different taste, and I'm glad I got to try them side by side. I hope you got something out of that too. So it'll help you determine if you want to try them, if you see them sitting on the shelf. And of course, you know, you should always find a great reason to have a drop of Irish whiskey, because any reason is a great reason, right? But just remember to do it responsibly so you can be here next week. I don't know what we're doing yet next week, but as always, I'll find something and we'll enjoy it together. So until we meet again next week, I want you to be well and be safe, all right? Sláinte. Bye now.